2025 New Jersey Democratic Governors Forum.
And welcome back to Taking Trent in the 2025 New Jersey Governors Forum. Like Bon Jovi said, we're halfway there, baby. So we're on to the top three in our most recent poll, beginning with Newark Mayor Ras Baraka. He has led the state's largest city since 2014, serving as a council member and also as principal of Central High School. Baraka, of course, making headlines recently after being arrested outside an ICE detention center before that case was dropped. Now, I spoke with Baraka in Newark on his vision for the Garden State. Mayor Baraka, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Big topic of conversation that I hear from so many people, affordability in New Jersey, specifically property taxes. I know you know this is a big issue, right? So the first question for you, at the end of a 4-year term, will property taxes be lower if you were governor?
Yes, absolutely. If we do the things that we set out to do, they should be lower, right? If we are able to change the tax code and make the top earners or the folks in the state of New Jersey who earn the most money pay what they owe or their fair share, we could actually reduce taxes or stabilize taxes for folks who make $90,000 and less. That's almost half the population of the state of New Jersey.
So a lot of folks would say that the towns and municipalities themselves are the ones who control property taxes, right? So how can you ensure?
That's not completely true, but yeah. As a mayor, your taxes are made up of not just municipal taxes, they're also made up of schools, the county, as well, and then you have to pay a portion of that to the state. So that's also a part of the taxes. So healthcare and schools are the highest things that you have to pay in terms of your taxes.
Okay, let's talk about some of that, right? When you break it down a bit. Majority of the property tax bill, you just alluded to, it goes to school districts and, of course, the municipalities themselves.
Right.
And then when you break it down, there's 590 school districts, 564 municipalities. So let me break this down in twofold. Would you mandate a consolidation of school districts?
100%.
And if you did, what does that number look like then at the end of a 4-year term? Right now it's at 590.
Right. I don't know what the number would be at the end of 4 years, because it's going to take a little cajoling and time and carrot and stick. Obviously, the state should, we have more school districts than cities. We obviously should say we're not funding school districts to have one school in them. That you at least have to have an elementary, a middle school, and a high school, and you have to work to get that, and you have to unify the school districts in order to make that happen. And that we should front some of the upfront costs that it took, the administrative costs to make those things happen. And that's what we should be talking about. And then other districts that are close, that are cumbersome, too heavy, that we begin to bring those school districts together, too heavy on the taxpayers. School districts that lost a lot of students, a school district like Toms River that lost 4,000 students over 20 years, they should combine with other school districts or find a way to build more housing and put more students in those seats.
Yeah, I'll get to housing in a second, but the second part of this question is a bit taboo. Would you consider consolidating municipalities, combining municipalities?
Absolutely. I think everybody in this country is talking about inefficiency. I think New Jersey is incredibly inefficient with the number of schools and the number of townships that we have. We have more cities in New Jersey than California. It's 8 times the size of our state. It's untenable, and it's too costly, right? And so the folks in Princeton figured it out. South Orange, Maplewood do a few things towards that. We have to figure out how to make that happen. And I know there are a lot of small townships and municipalities afraid of that because of home rule. But we have to begin to rethink what home rule is.
Do you have an example of an area that you may combine?
Well, not off the top of my head, but there's some cities in New Jersey with populations of less than 1,000 people, right? I mean, that is incredibly inefficient. We have to begin to figure out how to bring those townships and cities together.
And then the other big component of this, of course, is affordable housing. And I know you've done some work here in Newark with that, but there's this June 30th deadline, right, for municipalities to present affordable housing plans to the state, part of the Mount Laurel doctrine that mandates communities contribute the fair share of affordable homes. Will you sue municipalities if they do not bring a fair share to the table?
The way it's happening now, no, right? I think that everybody should do it. And then ultimately, if we present a statewide strategy and we get pushback, then we should sue. I don't think that the state should mandate cities to build housing without any technical support, without any resources, without a sit down with local leaders. Without those things, I think it is unfair.
But it's been decades, so how do you maintain
but it hasn't happened for decades.
How do you maintain accountability if they don't do it?
Well, you have to, I said that, after we begin to do those things, if they continue pushback, then you sue.
Gotcha.
I think
Okay.
ultimately you have to give people an opportunity. You asking cities to build housing, they haven't built housing in 20 years. Some of these people haven't built a single house. Never mind, they don't know 3%, 9%, they don't know tax credits, they don't know LIHTC. They don't know this information. The developers are going to come in and abuse them. I think the state should push this and lead it, right? Not put it on the backs of cities.
Obviously, a big component with the affordability are people's utility prices. Those are going up. There's this rate hike of 17 to 20% effective June 1st. So while you can't do anything about the rate hike that's going to be going into effect, you could do something about the future in terms of energy production, right? So what kind of energy production would you build while in office to meet the demand and starve off further rate hikes?
I think first, though, you have to reform the BPU. You have to put some people on there who are experts, people from the community. We can't crowd that place with the political appointments. The energy sources that I would rely on is solar, I think. I don't think we back away from wind, that we continue pushing forward with that. I think that ultimately it will happen. I just think we have to stay at it. But solar, we have to double down on that. There are some packages in the legislature now that needs to be pushed through. There's projects that could be online that are not online now because the legislator have not been able to get them out of the legislature.
We're coming off the state's first transit strike since 1983. People are glad it's over and that the rails are up and running again. But how do you ensure the needed infrastructure improvements are made so that we don't have problems down the line, like a summer of hell, to make sure that the trains are running on time?
Well, we need to find dedicated funding and stop raiding the Transportation Trust Fund, stop using capital funding to fund operating costs of New Jersey Transit, which is what's happening. Once you find dedicated funding, you can use the capital fund to begin to invest in New Jersey Transit, create more bus lines, and some of this money that we're using to expand roads, to do all these other things, we should claw some of that money back and invest it in transit. I think transit not only is necessary for us, but is also necessary for commerce and business to come to our state.
Would you keep Chris Calori on as New Jersey Transit president? You think he's doing a good job?
I think Chris is doing a good job. I think, obviously I don't want to commit to one person, but I think he has been a breath of fresh air, honestly, for the direction New Jersey Transit is going in and his expertise in transit.
Obviously, while this election is going on, there's a big state of politics, just not only locally, but around the country, right? And Governor Phil Murphy likes to play up some of his accomplishments within the past 8 years, legalizing marijuana, paid family leave.
He's supposed to do that.
Raising minimum wage, sure. Meanwhile, we're seeing support for the Republican Party among New Jersey voters tick up. So has Governor Murphy, when you look at it, put you in a better or worse position to win statewide office as a Democrat?
Well, financially, I think that the state, the things that he's done in terms of fully funding the pension, fully funding the schools, raising minimum wage, progressive and working class voters, support that. I mean, ultimately, there's some issues that he had, that the state still has, that needs to be addressed clearly, and we need to do that going in. And it's not about I've never been the person to blame my issues on the person that came before me, right? The bottom line is when you become the governor, you're the governor. And at that point, you have to take responsibility for everything. And 2 weeks in, nobody's going to even remember Phil Murphy and the things that he's done. The reality is you have to govern.
The reason I ask if it's better, if you positioned you to be better or worse, is because Jack Ciattarelli's numbers ticked up in the last gubernatorial election. Mr. Trump's, the president narrowed the gap in a presidential election in the state of New Jersey. So it seems like the state is going a little more red, and that's why I was asking if you felt like it put you in a better or worse position.
Yeah, I don't see that as going more red. I see that Democrats are staying home. I think the problem with the Democratic Party is not the Republicans, but the Democratic Party itself. I think our inability to govern at the level that working class families need is not there, right? We're supposed to be the party of the working families, and working families are struggling the most in this state, right? Our health care bills are too high, our insurance is too high, our rent is too high, our mortgage is too high. It's difficult.
But that's under a Democrat.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And our ability to govern. And we have the right ideas, we just have to have the courage to execute those ideas. I mean, ultimately, and Republicans will tell you that they can do that, but their ideas have never done that, right? It's never done it. Under Chris Christie, our lives didn't get better. Working class families' lives didn't get better. In fact, it got worse under Christie.
Let me point to a recent poll that we did at PIX-11. It found a majority of New Jerseyans, 53%, want the next governor to work with President Trump. 47% say they want the governor to stand up to him. So what would you do?
Well, I'm going to stand up to the things that are detrimental to this state and to working families to this state. Nobody, even though the poll says that, nobody wants education to be cut. Nobody wants housing to be cut. Nobody wants their Medicaid to be cut. Like, nobody wants these things to happen to their families and to their communities, and those are the things that we have to make sure happens. They don't want people to be attacked and picked up off the street for no reason at all. Ultimately, I think New Jersey families and most American families want those protections.
So what's an example of one thing you would stand up to the president on, and one thing that he's doing right now that you would continue to work with him on?
All of the things that I named, I would stand up to him on, every last one of them. And honestly, right now, I can't think of one thing that he's doing today, from tariffs to cutting Medicaid, that I would support. I just don't. And hopefully, he gets an epiphany, or Republicans around the country begin to say, this is not what we voted for. We didn't vote for you to fire 6,000 federal workers or more. We didn't vote for you to get rid of the Department of Education, and begin to push back. And I see some of that happening around the country. And then he begins to invest in infrastructure like he said he was going to do before. Then he begins to talk about lowering working people's costs. And we would support that 100,000%.
Obviously, everybody saw what happened to you outside the ICE detention facility. And it brings me to the topic of immigration. And should New Jersey be a sanctuary state? Absolutely.
I think New Jersey, it always has been a sanctuary state, whether we had the name or not. Immigrants from around the world found their way to port cities in New Jersey. We were a sanctuary for this area. In fact, if you go a little further, New York may claim it, but it says, bring us your tired, your huddled masses, your poor, your huddled masses. It's right there at the gate of our state, where immigration began. People began coming to this country through this area, right? And so, absolutely, we've always been a sanctuary state.
So people conflate sanctuary with other things, right? What does sanctuary mean to you, sanctuary state?
It means that we provide opportunity for people who are looking for democracy, that we advertise to the whole world that we found and discovered the best thing in the world that was ever created, and that's democracy. And then now people want to come try it out. They want to put it on and see if it fits. So they came from all over the world to come to this country to build a better life for themselves and their family with the protections of the Constitution of the United States. And a sanctuary state to me means that we protect the Constitution of the country, we protect the Constitution of this state. When people come here, we show them what democracy means.
Okay, Mayor Baraka, I'm giving everybody equal time, so we're at the mark. I appreciate your time.
No problem.
Thank you.